By the river Piedra, I sat down and wept. By Paulo Coelho. By the river Piedra, I sat down and wept. There is a legend that everything that falls into the waters of the river leaves insects, the features of birds, and transform into the rocks and make the river bed. If only I could dare out my heart, hurl it into the current, then my pain and longing would be over, and I could finally forget. By the river Piedra I sat down and wept. The winter air chills the tears on my cheeks, and my tears fall into the cold waters that course past me. Somewhere this river joins another, then another, until far from my heart, and see sight all of my merge with the sea. May my tears run just as far that love may never know that one day I cried from him. شگفتم. By the river Piedra I sat down and wept. There is a legend that everything that falls into the waters of this river leaves insects, the features of birds. It's transformed into the rocks that make the riverbed. If only I could tear out my heart and hurl it into the current, then my pain and longing would be over, and I could finally forget. By the river Piedra I sat down and wept. The winter air chills the tears on my cheeks, and the tears fall into the cold water that coursed past me. Somewhere this river joined another, then another, until far from my heart and sight all of mine merge with the sea. May my tears run just as far that my love might never know that one day I cried for. May my tears run just as far that I may forget the river Piedra, the monastery, the church in the Pyrenees. I shall forget the roads, the mountains, and the fields of my dreams, the dreams that will never come true. I remember my magic moment, that instant when I yes or no can change one's life forever. It seems so long ago now. It is hard to believe that it was only last week that I had found my love once again, and then I lost. I'm writing this story on the bank of the river Piedra. My hands are freezing, my legs are numb, and every minute I want to stop. Seek to live, remembrance is for the old, he said. Perhaps love makes us old before our time, or young, if youth has passed. But how can I not recall those moments? That way I write to try to turn sadness into longing. soluted into remembrance, so that when I finish telling myself the story, I can choose I can choose it into the Piedra. That's what the woman who has given me shelter told me to do. Only then, in the words of one, saints will the water extinguish, but the flames have brightened. All of the stories are the same. We had been children together. Then he left. Like so many young people who leave a small town, he said he was going to learn about the world that his dreams lie beyond the fields of Soria. Years passed with almost no news of him. Every now and then he would send me a letter, but he never returned to the path and forest of our childhood. When I finished school, I moved to Zaragoza, and I found that he had been right. Soria was a small town, and as its only famous poet had said, roads are made to be traveled. I enrolled in the university and found a boyfriend. I began to study for a scholarship. I was working as a sale guard to pay for my courses, but I lost the competition for the scholarship. And after that, I left my boyfriend. Then the letters from my childhood friend began to arrive more frequently, and I was envious of the stamps from so many different places. He seemed to know everything. He had sprouted wings, and now he roamed the world. Meanwhile, I was simply trying to put down roots. Some of his letters are made from the same places in France. Spoke of God in one. He wrote about wanting to enter a seminary and decided his life to pray. I wrote him back asking him to wait bit, urging him to experience more of his life, of his freedom, before committing himself to something so serious. But after I read my letter, I threw it up. Who was it I just spoke about freedom or commitment? Compared to him, I know nothing about such a thing. One day I learned that he had begun to give lectures. This surprised me. I thought he was too young to be able to teach anything to anyone. And then he wrote me that he was going to speak to a small group in Madrid and asked me to come. So I made the 4-hour trip from Zaragoza to Madrid. I wanted to see him again. I wanted to hear his voice. I wanted to sit with him in cafe and remember the old days when we had true when we had thought the world was far too large for anyone ever to know is truth.